Why did you leave before talking to the authorities?
We all stopped at Chick-fil-A, and the Chick-fil-A gave us diarrhea, and we really had to poop.
Hello everyone, this is Miles Francis with What Are We Talking About? And today we have an exclusive interview with a man who was in the vehicle with Rashee Rice this weekend in their hit and run incident that occurred right here in North Dallas. I'd like to welcome to the show, Dr. Jamie Jakes.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you for having me, and thank you for providing this platform for me so I can really get this story straight, buddy.
Yeah, and speaking of getting this story straight, I think that it's important for our listeners, our viewers at home to understand, how do you know Rashee Rice?
So Rashee Rice, he is my best friend. He is my patient. I am a chiropractor here in North Dallas, and he is my patient as well. Some would call him a mentee. I would be a mentor to him, some would say. Not me. I don't say that. And I am also a big fan of his pickleball game. Him and I play a lot of pickleball together. Some say I am responsible for his lateral quickness, Miles.
I have actually heard that at the Chicken and Pickle right here in Flower Mound. So the word does spread quickly on the pickleball court, just like it does on the football field. And now, unfortunately, the highway. And I've got to ask, Jamie, where were you and Rashee headed to on Saturday evening?
So yeah, Miles, thank you for asking. I was in the car with Rashee Rice when he had this accident, and I understand it can look really bad, but we were not racing. The reason we were in a hurry is because Rashee Rice was having a workout. It went a little long, and he had to get to a very important Easter Vigil ceremony where his niece was being baptized. And Rashee Rice is such a good guy, he couldn't risk being late to that 3-hour ceremony. So he was hightailing it down the highway and unfortunately got in a little bit of a predicament in a rather bad accident on his way to church.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, Jamie, but his reputation is that he is the Vin Diesel of the NFL, and family comes first in all aspects of his life. So that does track. But I'm sorry for these next couple of questions that I have to ask, but they are important. There were allegedly some bags removed from the car. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I was actually one of the people who removed these bags from the car. And some people speculate what was in the bags. I'll come right out and say it. Some of the reports are technically true. There were drugs and there were cash in these bags, which sounds bad. But the drugs were specifically prescribed Ozempic, and the cash was for poor people. In specific, Rashee Rice is opening up a program in Dallas for fat, poor people so they can get Ozempic, so they can get skinny. And in the meantime, Rashee Rice is providing him with cash at the same time. This was an event he was doing alongside the church that we were going to, where they were hosting that Easter Vigil.
As a North Texan myself, I can verify that there are a lot of fat poors in this area. So that does track. Again, I hope you don't take these questions personally. As a reporter, it is my duty to ask, but there was talks that there was guns, and now learning that there was cash and drugs. Guns is not a good look, Jamie Jakes, or excuse me, Dr. Jamie Jakes.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak to the accusation that guns were found on site?
So yeah, I would love to. I would love to let the record show that this incident happened in Dallas, Texas. Now, in Dallas, Texas, we love guns. We bring them everywhere with us. It's not a big deal, even to church. I would implore our listeners to go search man attempts to shoot up Dallas church and see what the results are. I'll give you a hint. It does not end well for that bad guy, Miles. And that's because whenever you're sitting in church, you're thinking, hey, if a bad guy came in, try to tackle the priest, what would I do? I would stop him. And that's why a lot of people will carry heavy, fully automatic weapons to church with them to protect the priest, Miles.
So, I mean, we've all heard the saying, the only way to stop a sinner with a gun is a saint with a gun. And I guess in this case, it was a chief with a gun. Again, as a Texan, all of this is making a lot of sense, Doctor. There is just one other point. I feel it's an uncomfortable question, but one we need to address. This is being classified as a hit and run. You did indeed flee the scene. Is there a reason that you weren't able to at least explain all of this great deeds that you were planning on doing with these drugs, guns, and cash? Why did you leave before talking to the authorities?
Absolutely, Miles. And we wanted to make sure those drugs and cash got to the people at the church, which is why we brought those with us. We didn't want to abandon those drugs. They could go bad. It was a little bit warm in the Dallas heat that afternoon. It was, you can attest to that living here yourself. And, you want to be a responsible gun owner. You want to bring your guns with you wherever you go. So we did leave. Unfortunately, we made sure everyone was healthy and safe before we left. We knocked on windows. We said, hello, how you doing? Sorry we hit you. We got to bounce. And the reason we had to bounce is after Rashee's workout, we all stopped at Chick-fil-A, and the Chick-fil-A gave us diarrhea, and we really had to poop.
Yeah, it's a good thing that they're not open on Sundays. That can be a big problem on a holiday, especially like Easter for a lot of people in the North Texas area. Jamie, have you spoken to Rashee since the incident on Saturday? Is everybody involved on your end okay?
Yeah, he's staying in my guest bed. We're hanging out. We've been playing PlayStation 2. We got a pretty good NFL Street campaign going at the moment. And he's just kind of sitting back, recovering from the injury that he received in the accident. It's not going to be anything with fantasy football implications per se, but he is a little bit sore. He's got a sore neck, and I'm helping him out with that with my profession. With these hands, I'm touching him and healing him in a way that Jesus was able to. I would just like to bring up Jesus again, and that is the whole reason this kind of bad situation happened. He has worked in mysterious ways, and Rashee Rice is just upstairs taking a nap right now, Miles.
Makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of Rashee Rice fantasy managers are hoping for a miracle, so that does track actually. What would you say the timeline to have this ugly incident behind us? Do you see a future where there's not going to be some mud on Rashee Rice's name due to this incident?
Now, Miles, we've seen a lot of questionable characters in certain situations go through trials and tribulations, but what they all have in common is that they're all Christians, and they all figure out through their Christianity that having all those massage therapists maybe isn't necessary, and kicking that woman in the hotel lobby wasn't the best decision in the world. They've learned this through Christianity, and since they're Christians, we can forgive them for these wrongdoings. Now, on the legal side of things, I cannot speak to that, but what I can speak to is that we will all have forgotten about this by the time Rashee sees his day in court, and it'll just be kind of gone by the wayside, but by the time justice is actually served in this case.
Justice is, of course, what all of us here, that's what Christianity is based on, obviously. What I need to ask, though, before we officially wrap this interview up, you mentioned his day in court is coming, and I need, for the record, Dr. Jamie Jakes, was Rashee Rice the one behind the wheel of that Corvette?
Miles, he was not behind the wheel of the Lamborghini Urus or the Chevrolet Corvette. Actually, the person who was behind the steering wheel of the Corvette that Rashee and I were in, it was cramped. I'll admit it. It was cramped in that cabin, 2-seater. It was Russell Wilson was in the driver's seat.
Which is ironic because he's a let's ride guy, not let's drive guy. But I'm not doubting you, sir. I don't mean to imply that you're not being truthful here on what are we talking about, of course.
Yeah, and honestly, he was doing a good job of driving, but the car got away from him. Somebody cut him off. And, just like a lot of things happened in the past where Russell Wilson was blamed for it, even though it might not have been deserved. I think this would be a good instance where we can again blame Russell Wilson for this one, Miles.
So as a Dallas native and a Rashee Rice fantasy owner, you feel that the justice that will come of this will be the downfall of Russell Wilson.
Yes. I mean, he is out of the division now, so it matters a little bit less to us, but just out of pure distraction, we all know Russell Wilson can deal with this heat better than anybody. So I believe we should blame Russell Wilson for this, Miles.
Wow. Well, Dr. Jamie Jakes, obviously from both of our perspective, I think the most important takeaway of this is we're all very lucky that nobody was injured permanently, I guess we'll call it, for the sake of this accident. And I'm really grateful that you were able to come on and shed some light on this situation, because it is a case shrouded in mystery, and having a doctor's testimony feels like a great way to shed some light on this situation. So thank you so much for your time today, Jamie.
Thank you for having me, Miles. And you are actually in a Superflex Dynasty Fantasy Football League with me. After I've told you this story, would you feel more comfortable giving me a early second round pick in return for Rashee Rice?
I was hoping that when it come out that it was my roster that it was trying to be picked up on, but I think that's a conversation I would personally feel more comfortable having off camera.
That's absolutely fair, Miles. Thank you for having me. And you know what? This is a great YouTube channel. I think I'm going to subscribe and leave a like and a comment on this video.
I think everybody at home should do the very same thing. Again, thank you to our guest today, Dr. Jamie Jakes, and thank you for tuning in to What Are We Talking About?